Hey guys, my name is Alfie Evans, and today we're going to react to sentencing South Park villains for their crimes. So, I'm sorry for uploading the video anytime recently. I've just been busy with work. Obviously, there's a lot of overtime work going right now. So without further ado, let's get into it. Oh, hopefully you guys are enjoying your first month back in school. Because I know a lot of you guys hate school, but you know, back in the day I actually used to like it. But, well, that was high school. I used to love primary school, not so much. But enough of that emotional enough of that drama. Let's get into that. Let's get into the video. 3, 2, 1, play.
Cut the crap. I thought we were here for lawsuit money.
For every friendly face South Park has, there's always someone that's up to no good, and that's putting it lightly. So out of all of those that have terrorized our favorite quiet mountain town, who will get off easy and who won't be so lucky? I'm Keefe Nossi with Wickedbinge, and this is sentencing South Park villains for their crimes. As with all of our TV series sentencing videos, we'll be sentencing these characters for crimes they've committed in only one episode or arc. First up on the docket is arguably one of the most evil cartoon characters of all time, Eric Cartman.
I think a lot of people are like wondering why do they not sentence them for all their crimes in all the episodes. I think it's because it will probably take a long time to go through. That's probably the reason why they don't do it at the same time.
We'll set our eyes on the Coon trilogy, where he dons his titular superhero persona and leads the organization Coon and Friends. In the first part, Coon 2, Hindsight, Butters, as Professor Chaos, is in a holding cell, and he yells out that he only has a bucket to poop in and no food, making Cartman guilty of prisoner abuse. Later, in a clever Clockwork Orange parody, he attacks Clyde and Bradley, making him guilty of assault. In the second part, Mysterion Arises, the newly kicked out Cartman is guilty of assault once more after he attacks a little girl in the airport for asking him about Mintberry Crunch. After enlisting the help of Cthulhu to get revenge on Coon and Friends, a montage plays of the two killing everyone in their wake, leading to charges of mass murder, destruction of property, and arson.
And they all deserve to be sent to a dark oblivion. You can do that, right?
Jews and hippies are also targeted specifically, adding attempted genocide to the charges.
Yeah.
This escalated pretty quickly, didn't it? Murder and destruction continues in the final part, Coon versus Coon and Friends, including the death of poor Justin Bieber. Finally, Cartman has Cthulhu send Coon and Friends to another dimension, which will count as false imprisonment. The scope of Cartman's crimes are far too huge for him to be tried as nothing less than an adult, so we think the most appropriate punishment is life in prison with no chance of parole. He should feel lucky that he's a minor because that's why he just narrowly escaped death. Alright, let's hope we don't get
a lot of people actually should say that juveniles should be charged as adults. Because a lot of people actually say that's what they deserve. A lot of children deserve to be charged as adults. Because that's what they deserve.
Sued for covering the first of several celebrities will be sentencing Tom Cruise. In the 200th episode two-parter, Cruise leads the many celebrities that South Park had made fun of up to that point in a giant class action lawsuit against the town. However, he makes a deal with Randy and Stan. They won't go through with the lawsuit if they bring him Muhammad.
You get Muhammad to appear in South Park, or your little town is done!
Later on, the town is threatened by gingers who will bomb it if the profit isn't given to them. When Randy tells Cruz they have no other choice but to give Muhammad to the gingers, Cruz threatens him and the others with violence, leading to his first charge. Through the use of Mecha Streisand, he's also guilty of destruction of property, arson, and murder by proxy. Muhammad is later strapped to Rob Reiner's goo transfer machine so Cruz can no longer be able to be ridiculed.
Throw the switch, Rob.
Which adds on a final charge of kidnapping. Cruz is sent to the moon to die at the end, and in our opinion, that's a punishment too good to change. Oh, speaking of Rob Reiner, that's who we have next. Reiner first appears in Butt Out, where he comes to South Park hoping to get smoking banned in Colorado after the boys are caught smoking. Disguised as a woman, he brings the boys to a big tobacco company to get a tour, and takes a photo of them in the factory, hoping to post it online and give people the impression that the company invited the boys here to convince them to smoke.
Got it! Ha! You bastards are going down now!
After taking the photo and revealing himself, Reiner and the boys make their escape, and he punches a worker and throws another off the balcony in the process, making him guilty of 2 counts of assault and disturbing the peace. Later, he has Cartman star in an anti-smoking commercial in which he says he will die of secondhand smoke. Reiner wanting him to die for real so we could further push his agenda. One of his henchmen offers Cartman a cupcake laced with poison. Thankfully, Cartman escapes after realizing what's happening, and he later stabs Reiner with his fork, draining out all of his goo. With that said, this adds on an additional charge of attempted murder and child exploitation. In the end, we decided to give Rob Reiner life in prison, plenty of goo draining, and a lot of limitations on those sweets. Barbara Streisand may have caused quite a bit of destruction in CGI form, as we talked about earlier, but her 2D form in her debut episode, Mecha Streisand, is nothing to scoff at. Streisand comes to town seeking out Kyle to obtain the Triangle of Zinthar. Begging Kyle to tell her where it is, she picks him up and throws him on the ground, first making her guilty of assault. She later kidnaps the boys in her condo and tortures them with her horrible singing, hoping to get the triangle out of them that way.
I don't know how much more I can take, dude.
Once she does get it from Cartman, she combines it with the Diamond of Pantheos and transforms into Mecha Streisand, destroying, killing, and setting fire to everything in her wake. Thankfully, she's defeated by Leonard Maltin, Sid Poitier, and Robert Smith in a full-on kaiju battle. She blows up in space, and considering all the death and destruction she caused, we feel this is an appropriate punishment. Normally he's portrayed as a happy-go-lucky guy, but in South Park, Mickey Mouse is nothing but pure evil.
Oh
His first
no.
appearance on the show was in The Ring, where Kenny takes his new girlfriend to a Jonas Brothers concert. After recording a music video, the Jonas Brothers declare that they will no longer wear the purity rings they've been promoting. Naturally, this pisses off their boss, who is none other than Mickey Mouse, who barges in and explains why they have to wear
Hey, what is this beverage? It's tea!
won't go on stage. Mickey beats him down hard, making him guilty of assault and battery as well as employee abuse. When the brothers are being interviewed on Good Morning Denver, Cartman, Stan, and Kyle arrive and try to expose Disney for their scam to sell sex to young girls. Mickey fires tranquilizer darts at them and takes them backstage, still unconscious, at the Jonas Brothers 3D concert. This counts as drugging and kidnapping, and one more count of assault is added on as he kicks Cartman. He even goes as far as to take out a chainsaw, threatening to kill the boys if they don't tell him which studio they work for.
Who do you work for? DreamWorks?
This is called menacing. After Cartman pulls up the curtain so the audience can see the mouse's true colors during his rant, the concert is called off, causing Mickey to grow huge in a fit of rage, and he blows fire at the audience. A news report shows Mickey destroying the city and killing people in his rampage, leading to charges of arson, destruction of property, and murder. Because Mickey's rampage appears to be not as destructive and deadly as similar entries, South Park logic says that we should give him life in prison. But considering how Disney has some of the best lawyers in the world, they'll probably find some way to work around the legal system, and the
I think he should be given the death penalty. I think he should be given death. I think he should be given death. No matter how Disney would try and get this man out of prison, he's still a danger to society.
mouse will get out. Our smallest baddie on today's docket, Mitch Connor, is next. First appearing in the episode Fat Butt and Pancake Head, he's initially Cartman's hand puppet that he uses as a heavy Latino stereotype caricature of Jennifer Lopez for the school's Cultural Diversity Day. Cartman uses Miss Lopez all day and acts as if she's a real person, and he goes as far as to create a music video with her at the mall. The record company representing the real Jennifer Lopez gets set to the video, and liking the new young Lopez, fires their current one.
Take me to South Park, Colorado.
This is 100% identity theft, and to put more salt in the wound, Ben Affleck falls in love with Miss Lopez and even sleeps with her. Mitch is also guilty of coercion, as Cartman is not in control of his hand and is forced to do what he wants against his will. When Mitch finally reveals his true identity as a con man, he simply disappears. With that said, we have no idea of how to charge him. Even if Cartman's hand gets cut off, which we absolutely wouldn't do, he would just reappear somehow anyway, so Mitch seems to be unable to be handled by the law. But want to know someone, or rather a whole group, who's not just strange, but really, really scary? The Super Adventure Club. Appearing in the episode Return of Chef, Chef returns to South Park after traveling with the Super Adventure Club for 3 months. The townspeople assume that it's a normal club where members travel around the world, but the boys notice something isn't right with Chef when he talks about wanting to make love to them.
Let's all go home and make love.
So the boys go to the club's headquarters for some answers. There, the club's leader tells the boys that the club is all about traveling the world and having sex with children.
Yes, what else would we do?
Going into some great detail about their next expeditions and the children of different tribes they will meet. So, obviously this makes them guilty of coercive persuasion, a fancy term for brainwashing, which they also attempt on the boys and fail miserably, thankfully. After the boys and his psychiatrist take Chef to a strip club, he's back to normal. But just when everyone thought that all was well and good, the Super Adventure Club comes back and hits Chef with a couple tranquilizer darts, kidnaps, and attempts to re-brainwash him, and keeps the boys hostage until they call in security. Thankfully, the boys manage to escape with Chef in tow, just for him to try and go back and get killed in his infamous, long, gruesome, drawn-out death scene. We think we'll do every one of the Super Adventure Club's child victims justice by sentencing each of them to life in prison with no possibility of parole. Bear man pig? No, it's none other than man bear pig. We're gonna look at look at this big return in the two-parter, Time to Get Cereal and Nobody Got Cereal. After he was proven to be imaginary many seasons prior, he becomes all too real in these episodes.
Okay, Man-Bear Pig is real.
Man-Bear Pig first grabs Ned and runs off with him, and considering Ned returns in future episodes, his first charge will be attempted murder. In the next scene, Detective Harris mentions there were dead cows spotted, making Man-Bear Pig guilty of animal slaughter. He then commits a slew of murders: a kid at the school, a guy on surveillance footage, some kids at Stark's Pond off screen, an entire Red Lobster, an entire Baskin Robbins, and an entire Jared. Not even Satan can stop him. All the while, he leaves behind tons of destroyed buildings and fire. While Man-Bear Pig did cause immense damage, it's kind of hard to charge the physical embodiment of climate change, and we can't help but find his family seen later in the Streaming Wars specials wholesome, so we're gonna give Man-Bear Pig a pass. It still baffles us as how Man-Bear
I think, nah, I think he should be given life or death, to be honest.
Pig killed him, and he somehow still got sent to heaven. In any case, the Prince of Darkness himself, Satan, is next. And for his deeds, we're looking at South Park bigger, longer, and uncut. Satan first appears when Kenny enters hell and hangs him from shackles, making him guilty of torture. Not to mention there are 3 other guys just hanging up there during the Up There song sequence. After the blood of Terrence and Phillip touch the earth, he and Saddam Hussein attempt world domination, and after being berated one too many times by Saddam, Satan commits murder by throwing him into a fiery pit where he gets impaled by a stalagmite.
Dom, would you let me do my job, please?
When you really think about it, Satan isn't that bad of a guy here. He's mainly a victim of constant emotional abuse from his partner, and we understand why he murdered him. On that note, we're going to pardon Satan. After all, somebody still needs to rule over the underworld. If there's anything we learned from this, it's that it speaks volumes that the literal devil is less evil than most of the other characters covered in this video. And in case you haven't guessed, the last villain we'll be sentencing today is Saddam Hussein. And we're also going to be looking at the movie for his crimes as well. When Kenny enters hell, Saddam partakes in his torture, completely hogging all the fun from Satan. Later on in his I Can Change musical number, he murders one of his belly dancers, completely snapping her in half. He also attempts world domination, as we mentioned earlier, absolutely upstaging Satan. Finally, he's constantly emotionally and verbally abusing Satan throughout the film. Much like his fate, we're definitely sentencing him to death.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
With his punishment having to be sent to heaven and tortured by the Mormons' kindness, as we see in the show. Because where else is he gonna go? Detroit?
Right. Well, that's pretty much the end of Saddam Hussein. He was going to be sent to heaven, which I think he shouldn't. I think he should be sent to hell, where he should spend the rest of his days. So that was sentencing South Park villains for their crimes. Personally, I think Mickey Mouse should have been sentenced to death rather than life. But anyways, that's my opinion. What's your opinion? Do you think all these villains deserved their punishments, or do you think these punishments were way too excessive, or do you think they were too low? Please let Wickedbinge know in the comments. So if you guys like this video, like, share and subscribe if you haven't already. And also go subscribe to Wickedbinge if you haven't already. As always, till next time, peace.